year. Last year we had a really good turnout, but as I was made aware of, there was a little controversy with the mental health facility coming into town, so that might have brought a few more people in. But it's good that we got a little turnout because obviously they really don't, there's no many issues that are affecting people here. But the main reason that we host this is we want to hear from you. What you see are potential issues or issues you see in your neighborhood. We're going to be talking for just a little bit. We each have some slides we're going to go over, talk about some stats, some of our concerns and stuff like that. Then we'll open up certainly for questions, and we want to have this as a two-way communication because again, the focus is this: is we want to hear from the community on your focus of what's wrong or what should be addressed within our community. We have three council members from West St. Paul here. Pat Arman. There you go. No. That's me. Lisa Sarn. And where'd the other one go? Oh, there you are.
Sounds right here.
Okay. So thank you for coming. If you got any questions, just feel free to throw them out, and I'll get going. If you don't know how I usually present stuff, we kind of have a little fun. We have some trivia, and Julie's been, I think there's one question there that you know about, so you're not able to answer one of these questions. I hope you can read this, but if you can't, I got some graphs on here that are going to be a little bit hard to read. But just what we have here, we have Kathy Cannon from the Dakota County Attorney's Office. She's our county attorney. Sheriff Joe Legal and Chief Brian Lickey. The four of us work very closely together here in northern Dakota County. When we're getting our butts handed to us on the street, call to call to call, if the sheriff's office has some available squads, they've been known to come up here once in a great while to help us out. We work very closely, all of us together, in criminal investigations and prosecutions. Major criminal investigations, shootings, stabbings, homicides, we all work together. Sheriff's Department comes up and processes crime scenes. If we have a shooting or a homicide in West St. Paul, South St. Paul comes to assist us. We do the same thing for South St. Paul. It's automatic. That's what we do. And of course, we work very closely with the prosecutor's office. We get them on board right away, and they help us in kind of directing the investigation if they see fit that it needs to go this way. Mental health initiatives as a big topic last few years in Dakota County and all across the country, actually. We're pretty much all on the same page on where we think we need to go and what we need to do. Calls for service, again, I touch base on that. When we are busy on patrol, we help each other out. South St. Paul's getting inundated with calls, and a high priority call comes out, we'll go take that. One good thing about us in northern Dakota County is priority calls, they're not held. Unlike Minneapolis, St. Paul, where sometimes you got a burglary in progress, it might go 2 hours without a police response. No, up here we help each other out. You're going to get an immediate response. It might not be from the city that you live in, but it's going to be from a city next door, things of that nature. We're all part of Dakota County Drug Task Force. We're kind of refocusing on the Drug Task Force as of late. The Drug Task Force has always been really good at investigations. We're now focusing a little bit more on violent crimes, violent criminals. They still do investigate the narcotics. Fentanyl is a huge problem, and they are really good. They've seized tens of thousands of fentanyl pills just within the last year, and they're really good at that. But they also help us when we do have a violent criminal out there. They're really good at tracking them down, locating them, and taking them into custody for us. And South Metro SWAT, we have a collaborative effort between two counties, us and Rice County. We have a joint SWAT team. So all the equipment that you see at our outdoor events, that's not a West St. Paul piece of equipment. It's two counties that we share all this equipment with. I'm gonna go quick. I like talking a lot, so I'm gonna go quick. Real quick, West St. Paul. We are authorized for 40 officers. We currently have 37. One of our new officers starts next Tuesday. So we have a new officer starting next Tuesday. We currently have one in field training. We have 3 part-time, non-sworn community service officers. Those are individuals that are going to school for law enforcement. We have 4.75 full-time equivalent civilian employees. That's what we're authorized for. We are down 1.5 currently. So we are going through the hiring process for that. We have 1 social worker that's provided by Dakota County Social Services. That's part of our embedded social worker program. We have 1 officer dedicated to the mental health response, and we also have that embedded social worker. They work together as a team. That's one thing we've been all trying to get more of is the crisis response social worker. We have 0.2 FTE dedicated out of our office, and that's certainly not enough. We do have 24-hour crisis response, and I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of times they don't have the manpower to respond to situations. They really don't. But when we have that person in our office, they respond with our officers through those crisis calls. We have 6 volunteer chaplains and about 15 police volunteer reserve officers. Some things we do, some of our community outreach. We do a lot of community outreach. Not only this, but our parks, our Cops in the Park event the other night, that was absolutely huge. We gave out over 600 backpacks. We had about 800 people attend. It was great. Some statistics. I'm not going to sugarcoat stuff, but I'm going to explain some of these look bad, but they're really not. I know this is really hard to see. 2021. Is that when NIBRS went into effect? Was it 2021, right? So FBI decided to get away from Part A, Part B crime reporting and went to NIBRS, National Incident Based Reporting System. So what we had to do is, prior to 2021, when we had say an armed robbery at Speedway, they run out the door, get in their car, take off, hit a car, get arrested, drunk driving. So there's like 4 or 5 different offenses that we charged this person with and arrested him for. We were only allowed to report the most serious offense. Now under NIBRS, we report everything. So that's like 5 offenses. So, but anyways, 2021, West St. Paul, this is metro agencies. 2021, we were number 2 in the metro area for offenses. A lot of that has to do, and I'm going to be honest, is petty type crimes that what we think about, stealing from cars. 95% of our theft from autos occur from cars that are left unlocked. Very seldom do we see somebody breaking a window to get in. They just open the car door and go in. Shoplifting was a big issue that we had a couple years ago. So just some of those petty offenses is what put us up to the top, because we all saw, if you're on social media, West St. Paul was the most violent city in the state of Minnesota. That's not true. It's because of those lower level offenses. But in 2022, we were able to get back down to number 5 in the metro area. So we're going down. We got a lot of retail in West St. Paul. 5 square miles, a lot of retail. And that contributes to that. These are a number of calls for service, or CAD calls, that we have over the past 5 years, I believe it is. 2016, we were at 24,000. 2022, we're now at pre-pandemic levels of 28,500 per year. These are the types of calls that we go on. Number 1 call that we actually get dispatched for, you probably can't read it, is those darn 911 hang-ups. 2022, we had 2,300 of those. So, 5 calls. But total of, like I said, just over 28,500 calls for service. Some of the major ones, and if you want any of this information, my card's on the back, shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to send it out to you via email too. I think the next one shows. Yeah. So our homicides, we haven't had a homicide for 2 years, which is good. We usually average like one a year, but the past 2 years we haven't had one. Last homicide we had was here in Thompson Park. I'm gonna say that we have charged people with, would we charge the mother with the fentanyl and the child manslaughter or something like that. We've had some accidental deaths that people needed to be held accountable for, and that has happened. But our last violent homicide was 2 years ago. And one thing I want to say too is, we knock on wood, but I've been seeing this for the last 6-8 months, is starting in 2020, we had a lot of shootings in town. We had a lot of aggravated assaults. I don't think we've had a shooting in a year I can remember. So our violent crime has definitely gone down dramatically. Our larceny and thefts, you can see in 2020, we topped out at 1361. We work with some of our big box retailers. Yes, Walmart, but we also work with Menards, Target, and some others to do more crime prevention activities. They need to take it, my view is they need to take it upon themselves to implement some crime prevention strategies in order to reduce theft from there. And it's worked. We're down to 678 last year. Auto thefts continue to be a problem. We were at 128 last year. We're on pace for that this year as well. Has anybody been a victim of auto theft here? Anybody had their car broken into here?
Thank you.
Aggravated assaults, 42 last year. That's been pretty steady, and as you can see, pretty much everything else has been kind of steady, except for our larceny. And then some other types of crimes, less the vandalism, for instance. 212. Everything, it fluctuates. Narcotics violations have certainly gone down. That's because we're not focusing on the petty stuff anymore. And we don't charge out the trace amounts anymore. So that has a lot to do with that as well. 2022, again, no homicides. 2023, no homicides. Sex offenses, we had 21 last year. We're at 13 this year. Aggravated assaults, 124 last year, and we're at 97 this year. I believe that's all assaults, not aggravated assaults, but all assaults. So, just some other numbers that you see here. Again, I can more than happy to send this out to you. Shoplifting, that was a big thing that we talked about last year, and some things that we've been working on. 2022, Target was #1 for shoplifting, followed by Walmart and Menards. This year, Walmart's leading with 81, and it looks like Target is at, I can't tell if that's a 57 or 67, but they're pretty close as well. So we're seeing a little bit more of the shoplifting. We're seeing a lot more transient people this year than we have in years past, and a lot of those transient people we're seeing and being suspects in these stores. My concerns, again, these are in no particular order. It's not ranked, and they change every frickin' day. But generally, recruitment is my #1 concern. When I started as a police officer in '91, I was one of just over 600 applicants for one open position. 2005, when I first started doing the recruitment and hiring for the department, we had about 250 applicants for an open position. Last time we had 3. It's tough. So we are now, what we're doing now is we're focusing on going out, meeting these individuals a lot more, going to schools, going to colleges, letting them get to know us, and when they're eligible to apply, when they're ready to apply after they graduate from school, they know us. Even if sometimes we go to career fairs that have nothing to do with law enforcement. Maybe they'll decide in the future that they want to do something else that they went to school with and they want to be a cop. Oh, Southside was pretty cool because I met Officer McCarty and Williams, and they were pretty cool guys, and I'll apply for them. But it's also, we're not only recruiting for the police department, we're recruiting for West St. Paul. Every position in West St. Paul, whether it's engineering, accounting, something like that, we want to get our name out. So again, we are 2 or 3 short right now. We have 4 applicants in the last week, new applicants, believe it or not, which is weird, which is really good. Well, it stinks, but it's better than what we've been doing. So we're going to be bringing those in next week for some interviews. Officer wellness, and that's also, we're talking about retention. We have to focus on our officers' wellness. When we talk about wellness, mental health, physical health, financial health, nutrition. We bring in seminars to talk about all of those. We have great relationships with a nutritionist that comes in, gives seminars, financial advisors, because if somebody's having money problems, they'll bring stuff to work. They won't be as productive. So we're looking at the holistic approach for officers' wellness. Violent crime, it's a really big concern of mine, even though it's very, very low here, because you go 2 blocks north of Annapolis and you can hear gunshots all the time. Homicide 8 blocks in St. Paul just a couple weeks ago. A lot of these offenders are West St. Paul residents, believe it or not. They're committing these crimes elsewhere. So it is a concern. Thankfully, it's not happening in West St. Paul currently. Mental health in the community, that's a huge concern as well. We have a lot of issues with mental health. We're trying to do a lot of things to address those issues with our community. Fentanyl and drug overdoses are huge in northern Dakota County. Me and Brian have been advocates for doing something unique. And the next slide kind of gets into this. Overdose calls, this was 2021 and 2022 rates. We're blowing everybody out of the water in South St. Paul and West St. Paul based on the population on overdoses. Burnsville and Hastings are close, but they're still considerably well behind us. So we've been advocating for some additional resources in the northern part of Dakota County. We have applied for a grant through the state of Minnesota. It's an ORCA grant, where we are going to be putting, if we get it, we're going to be partnering a full-time community EMT with a drug counselor and a peer support counselor, where they'll go out and meet with these individuals that either have overdosed, have the potential to overdose, or get referred to them by the community to go out there and get that working relationship with them in order to get them the help that they need. So it's a very unique program, something that as far as we know hasn't been tried in the state of Minnesota, but it's something that we learned at a conference last year or year before that was done out in the Boston area that was really unique, and we're going to try and bring it here. So hopefully we get that grant. If we don't get that grant, we do have legislative support at both the state and national level to potentially get us some funds in order to implement that. And that's all I have, but we got trivia. Who said this quote? And I'll give you a hint. It's a president, former president of the United States. This country will not be a permanently good place for any of us to live unless we make it a reasonably good place for all of us to live in. Anybody have any ideas? And it's not my favorite president, like I've had quotes before in my previous presentations. I did not agree with everything this president did, but some things I really liked about him.
Lyndon Johnson?
Nope.
Nixon.
Nope. All right, next chance.
Reagan.
Nope. There could be no greater issue than that.